The statement did not arrive wrapped in emotion or softened by context. Heughan delivered it with a steady, unyielding calm that instantly separated it from anything he had ever said before. There was no humor, no sidestep, no familiar effort to steer the moment elsewhere. The atmosphere shifted the second his words landed, as if everyone in the room recognized that this was not another fleeting remark destined to fade. For years, Sam had perfected the craft of uncertainty. Questions about his connection with Caitríona Balfe were met with polished professionalism, warmth, and just enough distance to let curiosity breathe without letting it spiral. That rhythm became expected, even reassuring, for fans who learned to treat silence as the final, unspoken answer. The sudden firmness of this declaration shattered that comfort in an instant. What made it so unsettling was not merely what he said, but how absolute it sounded. There was no opening for interpretation, no space for hope or alternative meanings. His tone carried the weight of closure rather than conversation, as if he were finally drawing a line he had avoided for years. In that moment, speculation didn't slowly dissolve. It was severed cleanly. The reaction was immediate and raw. Fans who had traced every interview, every panel, every fleeting exchange felt the ground shift beneath a story they believed they understood. Some froze, replaying the clip again and again to be certain they hadn't imagined it. Others felt a sharp, unexpected sense of loss, as though something deeply personal had been taken away without warning. To understand why this moment struck so deeply, it helps to look back at the history that led to it. Sam and Caitríona's on-screen chemistry had always blurred the edges of reality, making it effortless for audiences to imagine something more than what was shown. Over time, imagination hardened into conviction for many, even in the face of repeated reminders that fiction and life were not the same. Silence allowed those beliefs to survive. But silence also became a weight. Every new season, every press tour, every shared smile reignited the same questions. By never addressing them directly, Sam unintentionally kept the story alive. This decisive statement marked a turning point, suggesting that avoidance was no longer an option. Observers noted how carefully the words were chosen. This was not an emotional slip or a defensive flair, but a deliberate message meant to close a chapter. The lack of qualifiers made it feel rehearsed, yet the heaviness behind it suggested weariness rather than calculation. It sounded like someone finally refusing to carry a story that was never meant to be theirs. Within minutes, the statement escaped its original moment. Headlines framed it as a finale. Social feeds filled with reactions, and long-standing fan theories collapsed in real time. What had once been a shared fantasy now felt abruptly resolved, leaving little room for denial. The clarity was both a relief and a wound, depending on where one stood. For many, the real shock came from realizing how deeply they had invested in something that had never been spoken aloud. The speculation had filled empty spaces, offered comfort, and created a sense of continuity across years of storytelling. When Sam closed that door, it forced a confrontation between connection and projection. The discomfort revealed just how powerful imagined narratives can become. The strongest reactions came from those who felt blindsided. They questioned the timing, the firmness, the lack of warning. Some saw the statement as cold. Others saw it as necessary. The divide exposed how differently people respond when boundaries are drawn after years of perceived openness. As the moment settled, one truth grew clear. This was not about erasing affection or rewriting the past. It was about reclaiming control over a story that had grown beyond its owners. By ending the speculation so decisively, Sam redirected attention back to reality, even if that reality felt harsher than the fantasy it replaced. In doing so, he opened a deeper conversation about expectation, privacy, and the price of prolonged silence. The impact did not fade with time. It deepened. Conversations shifted from disbelief to reflection, as fans searched for what had finally pushed Sam to draw such a hard line. The steadiness of his words hinted at more than irritation with rumors. It suggested years of quiet pressure that could no longer be carried. Many began to re-examine their own role in keeping the speculation alive. What once felt like harmless curiosity now appeared heavier, shaped by repetition and collective insistence. The realization was uncomfortable because it meant acknowledging how easily admiration can turn into expectation. In that light, the statement felt less like rejection and more like self-preservation. Caitríona's long silence was also reframed. What had often been read as mystery or strategy now looked more like endurance. Being tied to a narrative she never confirmed meant carrying assumptions into every appearance, every question. Though Sam delivered the words, the clarity seemed to free her as well from a role she never chose. Industry observers pointed out how rare it is for years of speculation to be shut down so directly. Most public figures lean on ambiguity, allowing emotional investment to continue without confrontation. Choosing clarity disrupts that balance, but it also restores honesty. The cost is immediate discomfort in exchange for lasting boundaries. Fan communities reacted in waves. Some welcomed the truth, admitting the endless guessing had become draining. Others mourned, as if a shared dream had ended overnight. That grief was not only about romance, but about losing a familiar story that had offered comfort for years. As debates continued, a deeper question surfaced. Why do audiences feel entitled to answers about private lives simply because chemistry exists on screen? The statement forced a reckoning with how storytelling shapes emotional attachment, how fiction, repeated long enough, can begin to feel like truth. The tone of future conversations shifted. Threads once fueled by conjecture grew quieter, replaced by discussions of respect and limits. Resistance remained, but the energy had changed. The boundary altered the culture of conversation itself. Critics argued the clarity should have come sooner, that years of silence allowed speculation to grow unchecked. Supporters countered that no one owes personal disclosure to manage public expectations. Both sides revealed the tension at the heart of celebrity culture, where privacy and audience investment constantly collide. Over time, the statement came to look less like an ending and more like a reset. It did not erase the past or deny the genuine connection audiences admired on screen. It simply restored the line between performance and personal life, a line that had once blurred and was now unmistakably drawn. For Sam, the choice carried risk. Ending speculation meant disappointing a portion of his audience, possibly fracturing loyalty built over years. Yet it also showed agency, a refusal to let silence continue to be misinterpreted. The firmness of his words suggested a readiness to accept the fallout. For fans, the moment marked a shift. Engagement could no longer rely on imagined narratives, but on appreciation of the work as it was presented. That change demanded maturity, asking audiences to release assumptions and respect autonomy. It was a challenge, but also an opportunity for healthier boundaries. As the discussion slowly faded, what remained was a clearer landscape. The speculation that once dominated conversations lost its grip. In its place stood a reminder that sometimes, strong statements are necessary to end stories that were never meant to exist. And while the clarity may have stung, it offered something rarer than fantasy, an honest boundary, firmly drawn and finally acknowledged. In the end, the most powerful effect of the statement was its stillness. Sam Heughan did not argue, justify, or soften what he had made unmistakable. That restraint forced the conversation to slow, to breathe, to mature. And in that pause, many realized the most respectful response was not to demand more, but to finally listen.